Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prime Time for Women's Courageous Living with Jen Silbert. You know, Jen is the founder of Raw Naked Living. She is a nutrition expert and also a life coach. She works with women all the time, helping them to exercise their brave muscles. For the past 7 weeks, Jen has been sharing her knowledge, her wisdom, and her experience with us. And today, the last day of our 8-week series, Jen's going to talk about small acts of bravery that help us develop and grow. She's going to share 25 different acts of courage that can help you grow your brave muscle and discover the courage and confidence that you need to live your life fully and with joy. So Jen, thank you so much for being here today.
Here we are. It's the last of our 8 weeks of the journey toward inviting authentic courage. And I want to bring it back to that word authentic, because if we did a quick recap of kind of what we've covered over the last 8 weeks, the conversation started about looking at what is courage exactly? You know, is courage something you're born with, or is courage something that you can cultivate? And what is this authentic courage? You know, what does that mean? And then taking a look at the opposite of courage, which is fear, because as we've talked about over the past 8 weeks, if there is no fear, there is no courage. So if you're fearless, then there isn't a place to express courage, because you're able to, which is not highly likely, but
yeah, I was just going to say, does anybody truly live with no fears or no anxieties? That's not.
Well, I want to share. I've thought about this as I look back on who some of my role models are for those that have, you know, expressed so much courage and just seemed like ordinary people that were just faced with these extraordinary circumstances, and they just like walk right through it. I'm like, are they just, you know, not afraid of anything? And of course, that's mostly not the answer. For the most part, fear is acknowledging your fear, or courage is acknowledging your fear and still walking through it. So the bottom line is you're taking action, which is going to be one of the daily acts of courage I'm going to talk about, because when you think about it, courage really requires action, requires you to have to do something, because, you know, that's where we set apart people who are living their brave, who've done brave things. They just stepped into or took action on, right?
Something. Yeah. But let me ask you something, just back, especially if we have Marcia's joining us today. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia.
Hey. Feel free to join in at any time. We're a small group today. But Jen, I wanted to ask you, in the introduction, I used the term brave muscle. And of course, there's no anatomic brave muscle, but that's something that you use a lot when you speak and when you coach. Can you just describe that or define that for people who aren't familiar with what you're talking about?
You know, I'm going to bring it always back to your mind. I really feel like it's a frame of mind, it's a perspective, it's an attitude, as is the case with most everything that we face in life. And this is where the decisions are made. It's really primarily in your mind, because as we talked about in the first session or so, about how we are biologically wired. And that is that our brain is biologically wired to protect us. We are wired for survival. So our brain is quick to scan the environment and pick up threats and to protect us with this elaborate, you know, machinery that's going on inside of us, a combination of all those different hormones and the way that our organs all respond to protect us. So up goes the cortisol, up goes the adrenaline, and that gives us that energy to, you know, fight, flight, flee, freeze, whatever. But we have to intentionally hijack that process because it doesn't come naturally. And that's where the mind is going to come into play. And so these daily habits are geared toward flexing your brave muscle, which is going to start up in your mind.
I love that. Yeah. And if it's the brave muscle is the mindset, there's these acts that you were talking about reinforce that positive mindset.
Right. Which is why when we live with these illusions about what a brave person looks like, you imagine them being strong and, maybe even a Marvel, I don't know, a Marvel comic superwoman, Superman. Oh, these are the brave people. They're big, they're strong, they're loud. They just have this persona about them. They'll run into a burning building and without even thinking and save the child from the second floor and so on. And that is far from the truth, because not only is courage not something we're all born with, but we can cultivate it. We can learn to become courageous by practicing these daily acts of courage. But in the process, we can become very resilient so that when we're faced with fear, faced with adversity, we are stronger and have more confidence that we can get through that. So courageous people sometimes can be very mild, quiet people, but in the face of adversity, they are the calm in the storm. They're the one who's inspiring the others to, come on, you can do this.
So as you talk about this, you can't have courage without having fear, and you can't exercise your brave muscle without going through some adversity. It makes me think about how either when we were children or when we were raising our children, the idea that our parents could step in and save us from our mistakes, or we could save our children from their mistakes. The truth is, we really don't learn from other people's mistakes. We learn from, just like you said, we have to go through that. We face the adversity. And if we exercise our brave muscle, we move forward, we grow. And it is the successfully coming through that adversity that builds our courage and builds our confidence, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we don't have to like go all in right away. We can take these baby steps, but we can actually do things every day to flex our muscles. And something you just said is going to segue perfectly into the very first thing
The
that I've
first of the
got on
25
my list. Yes, the first of the 25X. So you didn't even know it. And I tell you what, I am just going to go ahead and read off of this because there's no reason for
And
me.
you can show them if you want.
No, that's okay. We'll start with this. But I want to just say that these 25X I have divided into 3 different categories. And one of them is foundational acts of courage. The second one will be courage in action. And then the third is courage as a way of living. So I'm going to start with a few of the foundational acts of courage, which these are areas that maybe require us to dig a little bit deeper, do a little bit more work to set the stage for the others. Okay. So what I want to do is start with, if I may, the very first act of courage that we can practice, which is part of just setting our foundation to be more courageous in life. And number one is it's take responsibility for your own life. And something that you had just said, which was, we oftentimes have to learn from our own mistakes. Believe me, we can learn from other people's mistakes. If somebody does something really stupid or foolish, we can learn from that and go, phew, I'm glad that wasn't me making that mistake. He just got himself a $95 ticket for going, 60 in a, 30-mile-an-hour speed zone. I'm not going to do that.
We're going 30 in a school zone that's 20.
Yeah, yeah. I just got that too. And it's always like 40, I think. It's 40, maybe 38 is the mark where they won't grab you.
12 miles over the speed limit. And
12.
yeah. And down by all the schools, it drops down to 20, which is really, really slow, especially on these wide roads. And it's not that hard to go 32 on a big road.
No,
But
no.
you do get a $40 speeding ticket.
Yeah, okay. We're keeping it raw and naked here. Yeah, that's me too. But on a side note, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday and no school is, it sometimes puzzles me. Do we still have to go 30? But see, it's good practice. It's good practice. But here's what I have to just say on taking responsibility for your own life. This is really hard, but let's look at it as moms. For those of you who are moms and you're looking at raising your kids, You want your children to be independent when they fly the coop. You want to know you give them all that you can. You want to, sometimes we kind of over helicopter parent because we want to protect them from everything, but we definitely want to equip them so that when they get out into the world that they're ready, but that, this now is their life. If we are still intruding on their life, then we're depriving them of the learning experience and the place where they can develop their own confidence and courage by making their own mistakes. So when we
And that's a great point. There's a difference between equipping them and protecting them.
yeah.
And I just have this funny little story. My kids were recently home and they were laughing about how they used to have to set up their own play dates. Now, of course, the way they're remembering this is not how I remember it at all. They said they were in kindergarten calling and say, can so-and-so come over and play? Or that's not the case. But when they got to be a certain age, I did say, if you want to have friends come over, I don't need to call their mother. You can, and back then just dialing the phone was a skill. And, or I would have them, they'd say, when does the library open? I don't know. Can you call the library yourself? And so they were telling these stories. And the way they tell the stories, it makes it sound like I was just plain lazy, but really, I think I was just empowering them. I was trying to equip them.
Well, see, and I think that the principle of what you're saying is going to play out in one of these other acts of courage. But you see, let's use this example, for instance, when someone shares with us their interpretation of something that we did, sometimes we can be very quick to then shift gears and say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't really mean that, because we don't want anyone to be offended or misinterpret what we are saying. But and this is what we'll talk about in this first part of setting a foundation of courage, is that when you know who you are, you know who you stand for, you act from the heart, then you can be unapologetically you. I should have used that word in here, but you can be unapologetic, and know that people don't always interpret things. They see from the lens of their own eyes. So, not picking on your kids, but that's just an example that happens all the time. Our kids misinterpret what we did, and we want to go back and explain, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean that,
But in a happy way, they were saying that they learned to do lots of things before their friends. And so it was kind of like, it was both a little like
that.
Yeah. So maybe it was okay, but they were kind of tweaking me a little bit.
Well, they know that you're good natured too, so that you'll accept that. But this process of taking responsibility for your own life, it's really hard, because sometimes our default well into adulthood is to find excuses for why it is that we can't do this, we can't do that. And the truth is that no one else owns our life, no one else owns our body, no one else owns our choices except for us. And as we speak, I am coaching a 16-year-old daughter of one of my midlife mama friends, and I'm so honored to have the chance to be able to work with her. But it's wonderful to have the opportunity to be another voice in this child's life at this stage of life. 16 years old, what's all going on in a 16-year-old girl's life, and to be able to reinforce this at that age, to say, all kinds of reasons why kids in that age, any one of us can start feeling vulnerable if we don't take responsibility for our choices, and we want to make excuses and get into the habit of sometimes playing a victim, which is so easy to do. Is think about the old I don't know what were the old movies, the silent movies where you have the damsel in distress and then you have the man that comes in to rescue her. So I think sometimes that culture is still alive, and well today. There's still women who just like to play the damsel in distress. They might even not know they're doing it, but they're abdicating their power. And that's what we're talking about, is just claiming your own power and saying, you take responsibility for your own life, and you can courageously move forward by saying, I accept, even if you haven't until now, take responsibility for all of the choices that you've made. Don't beat yourself up about any poor choices you've made in the past, but start from today. Make an intentional act to say, I accept myself, I accept my choices. That was who I was, but starting from today on out, I take charge of my life and I own it. And there's so much power in that.
Right.
So that is a strong act of foundational courage. But think about how much easier it's going to be to make decisions when you're faced with choices after that. When you stand in that space and go, I am who I am, I own my space, it's easier for you to say no, to say yes, to opt out, whatever choice you have to make. So I feel very strongly this is a very...
So that's why that's number one.
That's number one. Okay,
Okay.
we got a number two.
I'm putting these in the chat so we can share.
Yeah, I was trying to save you the time from doing that, but that's okay. Okay, so another foundational act of courage is number two is to get to know yourself better. This falls into the self-awareness department. When we know who we are and what makes us tick, what our values are, what we stand for, what's important to us, we will be able to use that to inform our decisions about everything else in life and live authentically us, unapologetically. But this is a real big gap in a lot of our lives, because it could be that years ago when we were, if you were a mom and you were parenting, you had a certain set of values that you lived by back then, but you're in a new stage, wherever you are, you're in a new stage of life, and you evolve, things change. Maybe that's not really what you believe anymore, but that's still guiding your decisions. So it might make you a little less confident when you reach places where you have to make a choice, when you're confronted with conflict. So take time to dig deeper and get to know yourself. There's plenty of places. This is what I do as a coach. I help you explore yourself, go deeper. This is what therapists do, but you can get a book, self-help book, but get to know yourself better.
There's different avenues, but the important thing is to spend the time in really understanding who you are.
So important. And think of how much more of an influence, we talked about that last week or the week before, we talked about the courage to lead. Think of how much more influential we're going to be when we can show up in the world, taking charge of our own life, knowing who we are, knowing what we stand for. You're formidable already at this point.
Okay.
So, all right. Get to know yourself better.
So take responsibility for your own life, get to know yourself better, increase self-awareness. And what's number three, Jen?
Challenge your stories. We take kind of in the same vein as get to know yourself better, challenge your stories. It's challenging your reality. We each you hear that story about if there's an accident and you get multiple people that are there at the scene, you're going to walk away with that many different interpretations of what just happened at the scene. We all see it through the lens of our own experience and our own set of values. But if we want to better connect with the world around us, with people of different cultures, people with different opinions and beliefs, then we need to be willing to challenge our own reality and go, okay, is this really true? Maybe you've thought really firmly about, we won't digress on that, but it's very relevant in today's environment. You got some black and white thinking. You really think, this is my story. This is who I am. This is what I believe. Do you really believe that? Is that really the truth? How's that work? How's that working for you?
Well, the other thing is, even if you don't change your mind, I just did I did a presentation, an online presentation for Red Hat Society group. And I was talking about cognitive dissonance. And there's a fair amount of research out there that says cognitive dissonance is what occurs in the body when long-held beliefs and convictions are challenged.
Perfect.
And so the idea that it doesn't have to be like put up your dukes and fight that. It can be, and it says that you don't even have to change your mind. But what happens in the brain when people take the time to consider another viewpoint, to challenge what they've long held, even if they just sit with this new information, like here's what you think and here's what is this new input, just allowing that to come in your brain and sit with it, your brain goes, ah, that's not what I thought. And so to try to return the body to homeostasis and to make sense of that, the brain actually creates new neuronal connections. And these little connections, yeah, so this is really important, especially for women in their prime, because we're all losing neurons every day. That's part of the aging process. And the neurons regrowth slows as we age. But to intentionally put yourself in positions of cognitive dissonance where you're considering other viewpoints, expanding your perceptions, trying on new things, you actually grow new brain cells. And I'm like,
beautiful. You know, I know you are all about this too, as am I, about how we can rewire our brain. You just a perfect example of how we literally can. But let's preface this with, we need to know we're in a safe space where we can be vulnerable and be challenged. And this is adding that level of value to communities like this, where we have a safe space where you won't be judged when you question, because where there needs to be a little bit of back and forth. If we want to really cross over and challenge our beliefs, needs to be a safe, non-judgmental space, or else we're just going to go, again, the brain is going to want to protect us because we feel threatened. And that's what's going on in our world today. We don't have these safe spaces.
But don't you think that that's what women in their prime are especially willing to do? Like we've all lived a little, we've all made some mistakes, right? At least I have. You might be perfect, I don't know. But you know, because I've made mistakes and I recognize I'm not perfect, I'm more willing now than when I was younger to say, maybe there's another way of looking at this. I don't even necessarily have to say, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Maybe I am, but the idea that I'm at least open to other viewpoints, other perspectives. And so I think that is a really, really important foundational act.
Yes, but some people do get more rigid as they age. So maybe we're just in that sweet spot. I'd love to know more about that too. Maybe we are in that sweet spot that we are open to other viewpoints. But I know people who have aged very rigidly and they get even more entrenched in their beliefs as they age and believe it more. And now you've got the age, the seniority to use as a sort of like as a, I want to think as a
cudgel.
Yeah. I was thinking of a weapon or something, but anyways, moving on, challenging stories.
Just say one more thing about that.
Yeah.
I think that's why it is so important to surround yourself with people from diverse viewpoints, because I think we become more rigid if we only have people saying the same thing that we already believe. It like solidifies that conviction as opposed to open you up to other perspectives.
Right. Well, listen, and if I could parlay this into more of like the impact on our physical health, our inability to be flexible also shows up in our heart muscles and in our arteries, because people who do have stiff arteries and get cardio problems tend to be people who are not able to be more flexible. I mean, it shows up physically in our bodies too. So overall, it's good for us. The key would just be have the courage to choose to find space where you can be safe space where you can open up and start having conversations that challenge your beliefs. Okay, but you have to want to do it, so you have to choose. But vulnerability is a key word. There is the courage to be vulnerable. Okay, next, and this may be the last one in the foundational acts of courage, is dream bigger. See, dreams require us to take risks, and we get into prime time. We've probably had one, if not maybe two careers behind us already. We have launched our kids, and now we're in this space where we get to look toward the future, and it's just us. It's not dreams that are for the family completely. Now we can start looking at, well, what do I want now? I got the freedom to choose. So it takes courage to do that, because we are afraid we'll be selfish, that we will leave our husbands in the dust. We want to go travel and they don't. So it's gonna impact our marriage. You know, they don't want to do that. It takes courage to do that, but it's also going to propel you toward what inspires you and gives you purpose. So we need to be brave enough to dream bigger and imagine bigger possibilities. So that's also more self-work.
Okay. So those are the 4 foundational ones. And now you're going to be talking about courage as action.
In action.
Oh, courage
in action. Okay, number 1, encourage in action. So this is number 5, be yourself. This is being authentic. When you better know yourself, you can be yourself. And that means examine your decisions, your actions, your choices, your thoughts, and ask yourself, is this truly who I am? And then let that inform your decisions and thoughts. Is that something that can just be courage in action? Every time you're faced with decisions, actions, just look at, all right, if I'm my authentic self, how would I answer? If I'm not concerned with people pleasing, if I don't want to keep somebody, or I'm not doing what somebody expects me to do, and I'm just myself, what does that look like? So that's courage in action.
Okay.
Okay. Let's trying to find a quick way to go through these slides. Okay, next one would be speak up. We talked about this every day. We have opportunities to influence others, to advocate for ourselves or for someone else, to teach people how to treat us. Okay, now when I say that, learning to speak up courageously, confidently, also involves listening. Sometimes people give me like the slanty eye, like, what? Yeah, listening is a huge part of speaking courageously, because what you're doing is you're taking other people into consideration. You're not people pleasing, but you're being empathetic about the impact of your decisions and the words that you choose to say. So, and this is something we're faced with every single day. We need to speak into a situation. So speaking up with courage means speaking up and knowing what you have to say
first. Yeah.
Listening first. Yeah.
I like that. And I think that, I think if you listen first, your words have the power to be more influential.
Oh, absolutely. Because then people know they're safe with you, that you care, that you'll listen. And so you're going to be much more impactful. I'm just going to put a quick plug in for my Confident Conversations course. It's a little mini course you can get online on my website at rawnakedliving.com. I've had a number of people go through the course. They actually want more after they're done. They want to do role playing. This is a really important part of primetime women's lives, is having the courage to be able to speak up. So anyways, thank you for that quick opportunity. Okay, the next one is to take action. So that's kind of falling in line with the same thing. Take action. It takes courage to make decisions and choose to take action. And every day, I think statistically, there are 35,000 decisions that our brain makes every single day. I can't tell you how many hundreds just about the food we eat. And a lot of those decisions are done on autopilot. We don't even know we're making them. So taking action.
Would it be take action or act on intentional decisions? I mean,
That's good. That's good. Because what I want to put in here, yes, it's intentional action. Let's do that.
Okay.
Very good. Take intentional action, because not taking action means that we're procrastinating or avoiding or deferring or abdicating important decisions that rob us of the rewards of courage, or the rewards of action, which include more courage and confidence. So
the other thing, I think by failing to act, you hold on to stress. If there's something you need to do and you keep putting it off, and I'm not a big procrastinator, but every once in a while there's something that I don't really feel like doing, and I feel it in my body. I do.
Yeah.
I feel it in my jaw. It's the weirdest darn thing.
Interesting. Because we all hold it in different. I could go on. There's this book here. I might do a plug for this book right now, and it's called The Courage Habit by Kate Swoboda. And she's got a 4-step habit in there to accept your fears, release your past, and live out your courage. And step 1 is to periodically do a body scan and examine where it is you're holding your stress.
Who's
So
it by? The Courage Habit by?
Her name is Kate Swoboda.
Kate Swoboda. Okay.
Yeah. The
Thank
Courage
you.
Habit. She's got a podcast and whatnot. So she's been influential for me. Thank you for writing that down. Okay, take action. Let's keep going. Number 8, the courage to persevere when you feel like giving up. Sometimes we have to know our boundaries and know that it's time to just say, I'm done. It takes courage to know that too. But it also takes courage to not give up when you feel like giving up and make the conscious choice to keep going and bring the task to an end, because this builds competence and confidence, which boosts your self-esteem, a lot of rewards in that. You have to have faith that on the other side of finishing that task that you feel like giving up on, or maybe it's a person you want to give up on. Again, I'm not saying that we have to persevere in everything, but sometimes we can push ourselves a little bit more and realize we got more courage than we thought we did. So there you get a chance to practice it. Okay, next one, 9, learn to say no, learn to say yes. And that means knowing your boundaries. That's like ground zero if I work with women, is helping them know what they stand for and then where they draw their boundaries to protect what's important to them. So that kind of challenges our people-pleasing tendencies too. That's a big thing. Number 9, this is the last one in this category, and that is the courage to work passionately. And what does that mean? It means that, sometimes we hold back on really sharing how passionate we are with something we do because we think someone will think, oh, that's kind of foolish stuff for you to feel is so important, and maybe we don't want to offend someone by saying, oh my God, this is so fantastic, I'm having so much fun, because it makes us feel like we're diminishing someone else. But how contagious is that? When you hang out with people that are passionate about what they do, they could be, let's take whatever jobs or tasks just are not very appealing, and do it with passion. Oh my gosh, I want to be around that person, because you know what? They're happy people. So we can practice that every day by seeing what makes us passionate and not being afraid to express it. So it's contagious.
So let me do a recap on courage and action.
Okay.
Be authentic, speak up, first listen, take intentional action,
Yeah.
persevere when you feel like giving up, learn to say yes, learn to say no, know your boundaries, and the last one was work passionately. Did I miss anything?
I wish I could just, do you want me to show the slides for these last one? They're just one words. I just number them all. Would it make it easier so you don't have to write it, or are you okay?
Well, if you do it, that'd be great. I also thought to myself, sometimes people don't watch a whole thing, but they will read the chats. So I was just trying to
and let's
capture
do
it.
chat. Okay,
Yeah.
so
but I am fine with you doing this. Yeah,
no.
I think you could show it. You want to give it a try?
All right.
Share it.
So let's do a quick screen share, and then I'll go the rest of them up because they're just one-liners. Okay, can you see that?
I can.
Great. Okay. Since these are all, and I have this new program in Canva, I've told you about that before.
Yeah, look at this.
So these are just one-liners because these are all courage as a way of life. So this is just something we can do. You may not think that these are acts of courage, but I need to share that they are, because we're making choices in each of these areas. So we could choose to be happy. Think about that. It's another choice we can make. Choose to be grateful. We choose to accept our imperfections. We could choose to ask for help. We could choose to apologize when we hurt somebody. We could choose to avoid gossip. I want to just stop here and have us just reflect on just.
Jen, right now, I'm just seeing your screen thing. I'm not seeing the.
You have seen the slides?
I'm seeing somebody running on a beach with.
Oh, funny.
I saw it for a second and then it was disappeared.
I see. I know, because I moved it. That's wild. Okay. How about this?
Now I see it.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yes. So you see my vision board, me running on a beach there.
Oh, that was you.
No, it's me. It's me. I'm manifesting me. So that's something
Okay.
else. It's me.
Love it.
Okay. So you're just as a repeat, I'll just let you read that. But I feel like we could all reflect on times where we are faced with these choices every day, like to choose to be happy when maybe things are not going well, and we're going to make a choice to be happy. I bless you.
Thank you.
I know for myself that I've had to be intentional, because I've found sometimes that the things that are going on are very depressing, and sometimes they make me angry. And then I realize I can't do much about that anyways, and it's not good for my health. So I'm going to choose to be happy. So there, we're going to choose to be happy, be grateful, accept our imperfections. How do these things show up in life? There are times when maybe we expect a little bit too much of ourselves. Maybe we expect perfection. I know I do this sometimes when I feel like I want to produce a product. I want to be the best coach, and maybe I didn't do what it was that I thought, or maybe I don't have the stamina to get through an entire day without stopping to take a nap. I mean, that's a wild example, but sometimes I expect that of myself. And then I realize, you know, I'm in a stage of life where I have to pace myself now. And it's not an imperfection, but it's just, I'm not who I used to be.
You're evolving.
I'm evolving, but I'm aging.
Yeah.
So maybe it's where you accept your age, because you know, I'm all about like, and so are you, age doesn't matter. But sometimes the reality is our bodies are telling us that we don't have the same stamina as we used to have. So we just, acceptance is the bottom line. And I think there's a lot of peace that can come with accepting our imperfections. So whatever little experiences you have on a daily basis where you're confronted with any of these issues and you can make a conscious choice, that is an act of courage. It might just be that you're doing it differently than you did before. That's an act of courage. Oh, these are big ones. We could choose to laugh. Okay? And you're going, what is that? That's not an act of courage. It's a choice that might not be the choice you want to make in the moment. But you're going to choose to laugh because the alternative might be unhealthy for you. So when you make this conscious choice, back to what you said, Bernadette, you're really rewiring your brain. Okay? And if I could use, I'm going to build on that one just briefly, because I have been like Susie Serious for much of my life. As the oldest kid in the family, a lot of responsibility when I was a kid. I grew up taking on highly serious jobs. I was put in highly visible positions at a very young age. So I was kind of forced to have to be this persona of professionalism when I was still even in my early 20s. And I worked in a conservative environment. I was at the Pentagon for many years in the Department of Defense. And this is a serious place. People don't laugh easily. They wear black suits and maybe they change the color of their ties, but God forbid you wear red or yellow, you know, something like that. No, you gotta be serious. So I didn't really have a lot of practice laughing. So when things went wrong, I was very hard on myself, to the point that I really suffered health-wise. I could laugh when I went out, with my friends, but for the most part, if something went wrong, I wasn't able to laugh at myself. Well, I have worked on retraining my brain over the years, and that's another story. But the first time that I think I might have spilled something, maybe I broke something, and I was able to laugh, I shocked myself. I had been practicing that muscle of laughing, even when I feel like laughing. And now I was faced with some quote adversity, and my response was that I was going to laugh. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, because those daily actions really worked. And so again, it's a choice that we make, and I'm happier for it. So
That's great.
all right, forgive more, speak less, forgive. These are easier said than done, which is why I said they're acts of courage.
I wanted to point out that earlier you had said, speak up, but listen first. And now you're saying, listen more, speak less. And they are not the same thing, but they do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both skills that I think if we practice them, we will have a fuller life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But speaking up is important. It doesn't mean we have to speak up all the time,
Right?
right? But because we want to listen more. So it's still important to know how to speak up because of all the reasons I gave. But the key really is to learn to listen more. And in this world today that is just getting noisier and noisier, we need to learn to listen more. So I'll just go forward, disregard all of these open tabs. You know, creative people have to have at least like 55 tabs open on their computer. I think I'll go big here. But if I just go ahead and continue. So these last 5, compliment others liberally, be more patient, be okay with good enough, question the rules, smile daily. Some of these challenge us to move beyond our ego, because our ego is sometimes our default. Like I mentioned, that our brain is wired for survival. When our ego is threatened, our instinct is to, either retreat or lash out and protect ourselves. So complimenting others liberally, being more patient, being okay with good enough for now, these are challenges to our ego that will help keep our ego in check. Because we're thinking about others, we're realizing we're not all that. And that takes courage. That takes courage. Questioning the rules. I'm not by trade an automatic rule breaker, but we always should be thinking about whether or not this is authentic to us. So there are times where we need to go along with the rules, and sometimes we need to just be a little rebel rouser and go, okay, is that authentic to me? Where's this rule coming from? Unless you're going to get a ticket for going 42 miles an hour in a school zone, then we know we need to obey those rules. But sometimes we live in a world that just arbitrarily makes up rules just to create order. And even in your small spaces, sometimes we got to question the rules we put into place. Do I need to have these rules? So think on that. We don't need to go on, but and then the last one for me was just smile daily. I want to share something a little vulnerable for you, but in all of those years of being the serious Susie, I aged with lines on my face and characteristics on my skin that show that I've been a serious Susie. And there's another word for this, and I wanted to say RBF, resting bitchy face.
I never heard that before.
What?
I never heard that before.
You didn't? Okay. So in my family, genetically anyways, as we age, the jowls on the side of the face just, droop. heavily anyways. But there are other signs that someone is very serious. Sometimes they just have the furrow in the eyebrow, and then as you age, you just have that big dent, that line in the middle of your eyebrows. You could tell people who laugh a lot because they have laugh lines on their face as they age, right? But I said to myself, you know, I'm going to counter the sagging skin and the resting bitchy face, and I'm just going to start smiling more often. So even if I was driving, I would practice flexing those muscles. This is an act of courage because you know what? It's not that easy to change, period. But if I want to convey down in here, I'm a happy person. Okay. I'm a happy person. So I just started, this is so goofy, but it's working. I just started stretching my muscles and just faking a smile, even if I'm just by myself and driving my car. And before you know it, that smile is starting to become more of a, I'm automatically going into that mode.
So it's a little bit like fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And really, it sounds so silly. It takes courage to do that. But you know, my husband said something so wonderfully today. When I asked him, I said, "What do you think keeps us from acting courageously in different situations?" And I think one of the first things he said was, "Well, there has to be something in it for me. There has to be a benefit to doing that." I said, "What's a very good point." Because we don't need to act courageously just for courage's sake. There's a benefit to making choices that, you know, we might find ourselves in better physical health. We might be at better emotional health. We become more resilient. We're going to become more confident, more happy. I want more of that.
Yeah.
So whatever I need to do, if I need to fake it till I make it, and I'm going to fake that dang smile until my muscles get retrained in my face, I'm going to do that. But you'll be more of a magnet for people, the people you want to attract in your life, if you can practice some of these acts of courage. I don't think I have much more except this next one. That's more in line with one of the foundational acts, which is just dreaming bigger. I always love this quote, but courage is just a choice that we make, and we can cultivate courage. We don't necessarily have to be born. Some people are born with more courage, but if you're not, you can cultivate more courage. But there is a reward in acting more courageously.
Great.
So,
Well, Jen, stop screen sharing so we can see your whole face.
yep, we're done.
Oh, yay, that was great. Well, thank you
Good.
so much for that little slideshow and for sharing those 25 acts of courage.
You got through them all.
Yeah. Right now, I just wanted to invite any questions that anybody has for Jen. I know I was going to ask you, do you feel that it requires more courage to live at this stage of life than as a teenager? Because to me, both teen years seem sort of fraught in lots of ways. And now at this time in my life, and maybe it's because I've learned a lot of lessons, I feel like it's easier for me to be courageous. And so I just didn't know if you had a thought about that.
You know, I've got to tell you, I think that's an excellent question to put out there for those who are watching live right now or on the recording. I think that's a big takeaway for us to consider, because that will definitely be individual for everyone, because we all have our own experiences that we've faced in that in between space. There may have been traumas that have informed us now. We might have found ourselves very brave when we were young teens, but then we've experienced trauma or a serious setback or grief, death, something like that. And it's maybe found us living feeling less courageous now. Maybe.
Right. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, we're stepping back.
Well, regardless of where your courage is or how you're living out your courage now, I am so grateful that you have shared these different practices with us, and also have spent the last 8 weeks sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your strength with us. I wish you the very best luck with Raw and Naked Living. And I hope, Jen, in the future that Prime Time for Women and Raw and Naked Living can partner together.
I think we will. Both of us have some creative minds. We're always coming up with new ideas to serve women, especially in this age group. And I want to thank you for letting me be a part of your new launch for Prime Time for Women. You know how proud I am of you. And it's been an honor to be a part of that launch. Yeah, start getting a little teary-eyed.
But I also want to say that if people are just tuning in for the first time today, all 8 of your episodes are on our website and they can check it out. And there's, in those videos, Jen also shares some information that is programs she offers through Raw Naked Living. So I just want everybody to know that there's a wealth of information out there to help you on your courageous living. And I'm so grateful, Jen.
Thank you. And yes, I'm getting ready to kick off next month a 5-day brilliant bucket list challenge. So on that note of getting out there and dreaming bigger and envisioning something more for yourself, if that appeals to anyone, you can find that on rawnakedliving.com as well. And I'm very excited about it because I'm getting out of my comfort zone to dream bigger things for me. So come on, join me.
Come and join her. All right, Jen, thanks so much. We'll see you again.
Okay, much love. Good luck to you, Bernadette. Bye-bye.
Bye.